the truth of the facts on the ground is that we have yet to see a major military operation into Rafah. As I said, we have seen an uptick in military operations at the border in the Philadelphia corridor and in the outskirts, but we have not seen a major operation into Gaza. We are into Rafah. I'm sorry. We will continue to monitor conditions, and we will continue to see what happens. Clear about what this isn't, which is not a major military operation. I'm not going to categorize it into one box or another. This is obviously a very dynamic and fluid situation. We're going to continue to consult with our partners in Israel and engage on these issues. Of course, at every measure, we have continued to stress the moral and strategic imperative to make sure that these military operations are conducted in a way that minimize civilian casualties. Obviously, just based on the imagery, the events of this past weekend failed to meet that mark. Regardless of the origin of this weapon, and regardless of what the weapon was that was used, it is devastating to see the images and the videos and the imagery that we saw from over the weekend. And that is why we went to the Israelis as soon as we were made aware of this about answers, about how this incident happened, why the level of civilian harm took place, even though it was not necessarily the intent. It is imbalanced, and it fails to note a simple fact, which is that Hamas is to blame for this conflict, and the fighting in Rafah could end tomorrow if Hamas agreed to a deal for a ceasefire and the release of hostages. It's important that the United Nations not erase Hamas's role from this conflict or ignore its repeated violations of international law. We have urged Israel to allow increased assistance into Gaza through as many points as possible and to ensure the safe and secure distribution of aid throughout the region. We've also called for consistent access through Rafah and Kerem Shalom crossings to prevent harms to civilians reliant on aid, and we're continuing to work with partners in Israel and Egypt to do everything we can to ensure as many of those crossings as possible are as open and can serve as conduits for additional humanitarian aid. No one across this administration has ever made the case that it is enough. I'm not saying that today, but it is because of American engagement that we are seeing some small steps in the right direction, and we will continue to press our partners in Israel when we have seen things that do not meet the mark.